Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So yeah, it's the end of the month. Well, it's the 2nd of September as I'm filming this video. So I'll show you everything that I have picked up for the month of August 2022. There's not a massive haul this month, probably not as much as I usually do, but yeah, there's still a fair few titles. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So first up, I've got a few DVDs, and the first one I have here is Dragon Ball Evolution. And yeah, I remember this movie coming out and seeing all the pictures and the trailers for it, and it just looked awful, so I gave it a miss at the time. But recently I've been getting back into Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, all the anime stuff, and I saw this in CEX and it was £1, and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go and I'll just form my own opinion on it. And yeah, it's really not a good movie. I mean, it's not a good adaptation of the Dragon Ball anime, but it's just not a good movie either. The casting is bad, the special effects are really bad, the story is boring. It's only 80 minutes long, but it feels like 3 hours long. Yeah, it was a struggle to get through, and I don't think I will ever be revisiting it. But I'm glad to have seen it now, and I can finally form my own opinion on it. But yeah, that is Dragon Ball Evolution. Next DVD I've got is The Man Who Wasn't There. So yeah, I haven't seen this movie in probably almost 15 years. I saw it in school in like a film class, and I remember really enjoying it when I saw it. It's a Coen Brothers movie, but it's a very, very different sort of Coen Brothers movie. It's got this sort of somber, melancholy kind of tone to it. It's all in black and white, but like I said, I remember really enjoying it. Got a strange ending. I won't say much more than that, but I'm looking forward to revisiting it. But yeah, that is The Man Who Wasn't There. Next DVD I've got is My Soul to Take. So yeah, I've been wanting to see this movie for a while, mainly because it's a Wes Craven movie. It was the only Wes Craven movie that I hadn't got around to seeing, and I'm a bit of a completist when it comes to directors. So yeah, I just wanted to see it because it's Wes Craven. And this movie does not have a very good reputation. It's got a lot of really bad reviews. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either, but I did get some enjoyment out of it. It's got that Wes Craven feel to it. If you think about Wes Craven movies, he does a lot of horror movies, but they're very wacky. You know, you think about Nightmare on Elm Street, Shocker, The People Under the Stairs, Serpent and the Rainbow. This movie feels very much of the same vein of those movies. It's a horror movie, but it's got this sort of this wacky nature to it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's probably not one I would recommend to everyone, but it was not too bad in my opinion. But yeah, that is My Soul to Take. And the last DVD that I picked up is Stage Fright, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. So yeah, I remember when I was a teenager and I got into Alfred Hitchcock and I watched as many movies of his as I could. But this was always the one that was always so hard to track down, and I never really saw it until a lot later in my life. And I picked it up just so I could own it, basically. It's not one of his greatest films, but it is a thriller, and you know, Hitchcock very rarely goes wrong when he's making thriller movies, so it is enjoyable. Like I said, not one of his best, but it's pretty decent. But yeah, that is Stage Fright. Onto the Blu-rays now, and the first two that I've got here are two that I have seen before, but I bought them just to add to the collection. So the first movie that I've got here is a movie called The Box. So this is a thriller that stars James Marsden and Cameron Diaz, and they play this married couple, and one day they are visited by this stranger played by Frank Langella, who gives them this box, and the box has a button on it, and he says to them, if you push the button on this box, you will get $1 million. However, someone that you don't know will die as a consequence. And he gives them 24 hours to decide, and after the 24 hours are over, he will take the box and the offer will be rescinded. And so it's within that 24 hours, it kind of poses this dilemma for the couple. It's like, what would you do in this situation? Would you take the money and not care about who's died? Or, you know, would it be the opposite? And it's a really, really interesting thriller, very unpredictable in places. It was written by Richard Matheson, who a very well-known sci-fi writer. You know, he wrote I Am Legend, he wrote for The Twilight Zone. And yeah, it's just a really, really interesting premise, and I really enjoyed it the first time I saw it, and glad to have it in the collection. So yeah, that is The Box. And the other one I picked up to add to the collection is Killer Joe. So yeah, this is a thriller directed by William Friedkin of The Exorcist, French Connection fame. And yeah, I really like this movie. It's about this guy played by Emile Hirsch who concocts this plan to have his mother assassinated so he can claim inheritance money and pay off these gangsters who he owes money to. But obviously things are not quite as easy as they would seem for him. And yeah, Matthew McConaughey plays the hitman in the movie, and yeah, it kind of goes from there. It's really enjoyable movie, kind of strange in places, quite violent, but a lot of fun nonetheless. That is Killer Joe. So next up, I've got a movie that I hadn't seen before, and it's a movie called The Call. So yeah, this is a movie that stars Halle Berry, and she plays a 911 operative who takes emergency calls. And one day she gets a call from a character played by Abigail Breslin who has been kidnapped, and Halle Berry just tries to do all that she can on the phone to help her. And as the film goes on, she maybe gets a little bit too involved in trying to help her, and it sort of becomes a rescue mission for her. I thought it was a decent little thriller. It didn't blow me away, but it's a really solid 90 minutes if you just want something very simple. It will probably do the trick, but yeah, that is The Call. Next up, I've got a movie from the 101 label, and I think this is quite an old one from them, but it is Cherry Falls. So yeah, this is a movie that came out in the late 90s, a slasher movie, kind of came out after Scream kind of revived the slasher genre in the 90s. And yeah, like Scream, it's got a very sort of ironic, comedic, self-referential tone to it. But I really enjoyed it. It's got a great cast with Brittany Murphy, and you've got Michael Biehn in there playing her dad and also the sheriff of the small town that it's set in. And yeah, I quite enjoy the gimmick in this one. The killer only targets virgins, whereas we all know historically in slasher movies, virgins have always been the characters who are safe from the killer. So it's quite funny to see it being the opposite in this movie, and it takes a bit of a funny turn as a result of that. It's nowhere near the level of like Scream and sort of some of the other movies from, well, some of the other slasher movies from the late 90s, but I still really enjoyed it. That is Cherry Falls. Another 101 release here, and we have Phantom at the Opera. So this is the 1989 version starring Robert Englund. More of a horror movie. It was made at the height of his Freddy fame. I think it came out in 1989, and even just by looking at the cover, it just looks like Freddy Krueger. Yeah, the movie's okay. It didn't blow me away. It was more of a curiosity watch. I do like Robert Englund, but I know he has made a lot of really average horror movies over the years, let's say. But it was fun, nothing special, but yeah, it was fine. That is Phantom at the Opera. Next up, I've got a South Korean movie here, and it is First. And this is directed by Park Chan-wook, who is best known for making movies like Old Boy, The Handmaiden, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and it stars Song Kang-ho, who is probably the most recognizable South Korean actor, certainly for Western audiences. You know, he's in Parasite, The Age of Shadows, The Host, so many movies, too many to name. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. It's a vampire movie, but takes like a bit of an interesting spin on the vampire genre. He plays a character who, well, he gets him, without spoiling too much, he becomes a vampire at the beginning of the movie, but he was a priest, and he has to now drink blood in order to survive, but because of the morals that he has, he tries to get blood without having to kill anybody. So it's got this sort of comedic undertone to it. It is quite amusing in places, but also very gory. It's got that horror movie vibe as well. But at the same time, he meets this woman who also becomes a vampire, but she's just the complete opposite of him. She doesn't care how she gets blood. If she has to kill people, she will. And it kind of forms this sort of dynamic between the two characters. And yeah, it goes from there. It's a really, really good movie. If you like horror movies, if you like sort of horror comedies, you got to check it out. And it's just another testament to South Korean cinema, because they've just made so many brilliant films, especially since the turn of the century. And yeah, this is another one. But yeah, that is first. So the first one I have is a Criterion release, and it is a movie called Tokyo Drifter. So yeah, this is kind of about a gangster, well, a former gangster who tries to give up that life and lead more of a normal life. But then he gets involved with these rival gangs who kind of coax him back into it. And it kind of goes from there. It wasn't one of my favourites, this movie, if I'm being honest, but very, very stylish film, great to look at. And yeah, I'm sure other people will probably love it. But maybe on a rewatch I might like it more. But yeah, that is Tokyo Drifter. Next up we have another Criterion release, and it's a movie called The Sword of Doom. Yeah, so this is a sort of a classic 1960s samurai movie. It's about this samurai who is very emotionless, he kills without remorse, and he just kind of strives to be the best samurai that he can be. But he meets this other samurai who is clearly better than him, and it kind of conflicts with him, and he'll do whatever he can to get this character out of the way. If he has to kill him, he will. But the whole obsession with being the best kind of consumes him. I won't really say much more than that. I was a little bit underwhelmed by this movie, I have to say. I thought it was a bit slow in places, but there was a lot that I did really like about it. So again, like Tokyo Drifter, I'm hoping on a rewatch I will enjoy it more. But yeah, that is The Sword of Doom. Next up I have a BFI release, and it is a movie called Tokyo Story. So yeah, this is a movie that often crops up on like best movies of all time list. I think it was in Sight and Sound's top 10 movies of all time. But at the same time, I feel like it's a movie that not many people talk about. But I have to say, I loved this film. This was an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Just a fantastic drama. It's about this old couple who go to visit their children in Tokyo. The children are all grown up, but when they get there, they realise that all of their children just don't have any time for them. Their personal and professional lives just get in the way, and they kind of just have to get by on their own whilst they're visiting. And it's just a fantastic drama. Great sort of themes of like the differences between people of different ages, the inevitability of children growing up and becoming less attached to their parents and less reliant on their parents. And yeah, I just absolutely loved it, and I can't recommend it enough. So if you haven't seen it, definitely pick it up. That is Tokyo Story. And the final movie that I picked up in the Japanese sale is an Arrow Academy title, and it's a movie called After the Storm. So yeah, this is another drama that came out around about 2016, and it's basically about this this guy who is estranged from his wife and his son. He's got a lot of problems in his life, gambling addictions, things like that. But one day there's this storm that kind of traps the three of them together, and they form this kind of newfound appreciation for each other, and they sort of rekindle their family relationship. Yeah, I thought it was a decent little drama. It didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed it. It's got some great sort of themes in there, and I'm sure a lot of people will really appreciate it. So yeah, that is After the Storm. Next up I've got a Arrow Video Blu-ray, and I didn't pick this one up in the sale because I had a look and it was on eBay for £5, and it also included the booklet as well, which is quite rare these days. And it's a movie called Schlock. I've seen this movie before. I watched it on the Arrow player. I thought this movie was going to be awful, but I have to say I really enjoyed this movie. It knows exactly what it is. I mean, even from the title, you just know this movie is going to be schlocky, but I just thought it was so funny. It's a movie directed by John Landis. It's his first movie, basically just about this gorilla that gets discovered, and it goes on a bit of a rampage, but then in the process it falls in love, and it starts to discover sort of normal everyday things that it wants to be a part of. And yeah, I just love it. It's got this really low budget charm to it, and it's just a lot of fun. I can't really say much more than that. That is Schlock. Next up, I picked up one of the big releases from the last few weeks, and it's a movie called Red Rock West. So yeah, this is a movie I had heard about for many years. A lot of people have said it was one of the most underrated thrillers from the 90s. and yeah, I'm glad to finally have it in the collection. I watched it for the first time the other night, and yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Nicolas Cage plays this drifter who's kind of driving around looking for work, and he stops in this town called Red Rock, and he gets mistaken for being a hitman, and he gets given the cash to go and perform the hit that the hitman is supposed to perform, and he just decides to go along with it. He'll do anything for money, so yeah, he just rolls with it. And yeah, I won't really say much more than that because it takes a lot of twists and a lot of turns. It's also got Dennis Hopper in there. He is fantastic in anything he's in. And we've also got Lara Flynn Boyle of Twin Peaks fame. She's great in this movie. Yeah, I don't really have any complaints. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I would agree. It's probably one of the most underrated thrillers from the early 90s. But yeah, that is Red Rock West. Right, so next up, I picked up my first ever Scream Factory release. I'll just show you what it is straight away. I picked up Halloween 2. So this is the one that's in the sort of collector's edition slip with the reversible artwork. Now, you're probably wondering, why have I picked up Halloween 2 out of all of the Halloween movies? And the reason I picked it up is because I've always been curious about these Scream Factory releases, but I've kind of never really pulled the trigger on them because they are quite expensive. But Halloween 2 is the only one in the franchise that my previous copy of it is a really old DVD. It's probably from the late 90s, and the quality on it is awful. Whereas all of my other Halloween movies that I own, they're all pretty decent. Like I've got Halloween 1 on Blu-ray, I've got 3 on Blu-ray, and the quality on them is pretty good. I mean, I'm sure the 4Ks for them are much better, but for now, I'm happy to stick with them. I will probably pick up Halloween 1 and 3 on these Scream Factory releases, but for now, I just kind of wanted to test the water with these Scream Factory releases, and I thought Halloween 2 is probably the best one to go with. It's nice to have it on a format that is good quality. I will just say that I was a little bit underwhelmed with this. I mean, the artwork, I think it's okay, but it's not my favourite. When it arrived, 2 of the discs were loose, and one of them being the 4K disc, and alarm bells started to ring because 4K discs are very, very fragile. If they get the slightest scratch or nick, they kind of become unplayable. And yeah, I don't know, I was maybe expecting a little bit more. But overall, it's still really nice. And yeah, like I said, I probably will pick up Halloween 1 and 3. The rest of them, I'm not too sure on at the moment. But I'm sure in 3 months' time, you'll probably see me having all of them. But yeah, for now, I just wanted to get Halloween 2 and see what all the fuss was about. So yeah, that is Halloween 2 on Scream Factory. And lastly, I have a box set, and this is a box set from 88 Films. I had sworn that this box set had sold out everywhere, but I was in HMV the other day and I saw quite a few copies of it. So if you're looking for this box set, you might want to try HMV. But it is the Tiger Cage 1-3 collection. So yeah, like I said, this is an 88 Films release. It comes in this really nice hard box, incredible artwork. You've got artwork on the front, you've got artwork on the back, and got artwork on all 3 individual cases. It's just a beautiful release and another fantastic one from 88 Films. The movies are a lot of fun. Hong Kong action movies. If you like movies like Police Story, Jackie Chan Hong Kong action movies, then these will be right up your street. The first 2 star Donnie Yen, who is obviously a very well-known Hong Kong actor, especially to Western audiences. All 3 of the movies, they're all individual movies. They're not connected by story. They're all different stories, different characters, but all 3 are just a lot of fun. Great action, comedy as well. I can't really say much more than that. The movies are fun. The box set is very nice. You get a booklet as well. You get a poster. I think the poster is of this image, and you also get the original Hong Kong poster artwork on that as well. But yeah, it's just a fantastic box set, and I really, really enjoyed the movies. So yeah, that is Tiger Cage 1-3. So that's it, guys. Those are all my pickups for the month of August 2022. Let me know in the comments if you've seen any of these movies. What did you pick up this month? I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to see your comments. But yeah, I will leave the video there, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you all on the next one. So yeah, take care, guys.